It's prediction time here on Locked On Boston College. I'm joined today by Eric Hofsis, and we're going to talk about Temple. All of that and more on today's show.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. I am your host. I'm joined today by Eric Hofsis, and Eric has been my co-host on different shows for the last couple of years, and he's joining us every Friday during football season. Eric, how's it going?
Good. I think we're finally at an interesting point in the season. Maybe not the interest for the reasons we thought, but certainly things have gotten really interesting.
So, right, we've been talking on the show all week long about Phil Dracovich's injury and what that does to this team. I've said all along, and I will stand by my new prediction, but even with Dennis Grosel, there's enough weapons on this offense to win 8 or 9 games. Given the schedule, the ACC is a mess. You saw NC State lose Peyton Wilson, their possible defensive player of the year. You saw James Mitchell at Virginia Tech get lost. And then you have a whole bunch of teams like Florida State losing to an FCS school, Syracuse losing to Rutgers. I feel like even without Dracovic, this team could still be good. What are your thoughts on that? I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I for anyone panicking over the injury, I really have to question just their overall knowledge with football, and because listen, Dracovic has a better arm than Dennis Grosel. No questions asked. Okay, he is not the NFL quarterback potential that Dracovic is. We all know that. But, I mean, this guy has had some great games in his own right in his kind of limited playing time here and there. But, you go back to as far as a couple years ago in 2019, he had a really unexpectedly good performance at home against Florida State. Last year, of course, that game against Virginia, he had an unbelievable game. I mean, if he could get any better than that, I mean, we're not talking about the hugest drop-offs here. And listen, Jeff Hafley's a great coach. He's not going to run the same exact offense that he ran under Phil Dracovic. They will retool it. I mean, this isn't Steve Addazio here. Where he's just going to use his typical philosophy and playbook and just whatever players he has, he's just going to pound it and hit his head against the wall, even though he doesn't have the personnel to fit the scheme. Hafley's going to retool. He's going to use this game to get Grosel comfortable. But I think the interesting thing for me is we've seen BC over the last 2 weeks, and they've kept things very vanilla on both sides of the ball. And I'll be interested to see if they kind of open things up this weekend. Temple is a far inferior opponent, but you almost wonder if they want to kind of kickstart the offense and get them some confidence as the schedule picks up next week.
Yeah, I feel like this is the perfect – you want to hold back if you can, but this is the perfect time. You want to at least get a chance to play some of their – some of the defense that they have been holding back on, the offense they've been holding back on, because you don't want that to be the first time they use it against Mizzou next week. You want to be able to do some of that. So Eric and I have been chatting, and, when I'm on here with Eric or with Mitch Wolf, we all go back and forth with each other on different things on Twitter and or on Twitter or on text message, excuse me. One thing I had sent to Eric, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it because he follows me on Twitter, and I don't want him to think that I'm trashing him, because I definitely am not. But earlier this week, the ACC announced their Players of the Week, and my jaw dropped to the floor when I saw that Travis Levy was named running Specialist of the Week. And if you remember the game, specifically, it wasn't just that he fumbled the ball and that UMass got the ball at the 1 yard line. That fumble was so catastrophic that it literally turned the momentum of that game on its head. BC could, when they got that ball, if they fielded it cleanly, scored, they'd be up like 35-7. Now it's 28 14. UMass has got all the energy in the world. Eric, what were your thoughts on that? Because I know you were in the same boat as I was.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, to put it mildly, that Levy won Special Teams Player of the Week. I mean, that return for a touchdown was a great play, but when you fumble the ball on your own, 1 yard line and switch the momentum of a game, that kind of negates things. I would think the same for a running back that has a 90-yard touchdown run, but then has a costly fumble in the game too. Usually you don't see those guys get Player of the Week unless they put up some kind of ungodly stats. So yeah, I don't know how it works. They must have been really light on candidates this week for Special Teams Returner of the Week.
Yeah, I didn't watch enough of the other games to see that, but that was just another small little topic we're going to talk about. Now we're on to Temple. This is, it's a road game this week. It's at Financial Field in Philly, and BC is on the road for the second time of the season. Now, Boston College is playing against a two-headed beast at quarterback. We don't know who we're going to see. Is it going to be Georgia transfer Dewan Mathis, who looks like he's struggling and he's hurt as well, but he's still listed as QB1? Or is it going to be Justin Lynch, another true freshman quarterback? Eric, you seem to always get a good feel on some of these quarterbacks. What have you seen about both of these guys, and how do you think Boston College will handle Temple's offense?
Honestly, if either one of these quarterbacks has any kind of solid day, aside from in garbage time, I'm going to have some serious concerns going forward. A small sample size, but Temple's putting up 346 yards a game, a total offense, the 91st total offense in the entire country. And they weren't exactly playing, crazy good competition against Rutgers and Akron to start the year here. So, and it's funny, like it did catch my eye. They had a transfer from Georgia at quarterback, but I'm like, hey, no offense to this kid, but if you were a quarterback at Georgia and you ended up at Temple, something went wrong with your career along the way here. So it probably wasn't as good as his recruiting ranking coming out of high school. So
I have to say, last year when Mathis was with Georgia, I think he played in the Florida game because JT Daniels hadn't come back for Georgia at that point. And he got absolutely thrashed by the Gators.
That's a good memory. I didn't even put that together, but yep. I do remember that game. Yeah,
he had no chance, and I was like, oh, you know what? He's a former 4-star quarterback, and I don't fall in love with the stars. I was just actually talking to someone on Twitter about that, but maybe he goes to Temple and he figures it out. And then I look at his stats; he's 8 for 24 so far this season, and got hurt in the second game. So I don't know. I get the suspicion, because he's had more experience, that Temple will probably trot him out. And then if he gets killed, they're just going to put Lynch right back in. But what I've also noticed, and what Halfley brought up, is that he's impressed with the wide receivers on Temple, that there's a couple of guys. They have one wide receiver who has 204 receiving yards already, and his name is, and I apologize, I don't have it right in front of me. It is, Randall Jones, 8 receptions for 208 yards. And then Jaden Blue, who also has 6 receptions for 31 yards. To get some interesting receivers, and Halfley said Jones is a guy that he could see in the pros. That could just be coach speak. But is there anything about Temple that you are worried about going into this game?
I listen, I'll take Coach Halfley's word for it. Some people as old as me remember when old Notre Dame coach Lou Holtz used to always talk up the opponents, and nowadays Bill Belichick's pretty famous for being able to talk up like an 0-14 team. So I'll take the coach's word for it. But from some of the clips I've watched of Temple and reading up on them, there's not a whole lot to be concerned about on that roster.
All right, in just a moment, Eric and I are going to go over our predictions for the game. But before we do that, if you like this podcast, you need to check out Locked On ACC. It's hosted by Candace Cooper, and she is joined by a rotating guest of Locked On ACC hosts from around the network, including myself. I host with her on Wednesdays. We talk about everything Atlantic Coast Conference. If you want to check that out, if you want to get more news about the conference that you follow, check out Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, I talked about this for months now. You got to check out Built Bars. Built Bars are a protein bar that's covered in chocolate. They are delicious, and they're healthy too. They have 17 to 18 grams of protein, calories ranging from 138 to 180 calories, and listen to the flavors, and they taste as good as they sound. Coconut, cherry barcia, raspberry, mint brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel, strawberry, my favorite cookies and cream. And if you don't know which one you want to try, get the mix box. You'll get 2 of each, and you can find your favorite. Head on over to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15 and you'll receive 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. This is AJ Black. I am joined by Eric Hofstas. I am also the editor and publisher of BCBulletin.com. Check out my work there. We have tons of coverage going on right now for the Temple game on Saturday. If you want predictions, if you want analysis, we should be the place that you go to. Make sure you have that site bookmarked and get to all of our articles over there. Also, if you are listening and you want to talk BC sports, head over to the Maroon and Gold Forums. It's a forum site that I own. That is associated with my BC Bulletin work. If you want to talk to other BC fans on there, I pop in here and there as well. We also have a premium section that's where I kind of live to talk BC sports with my premium subscribers. So check that out. Now, Saturday's game, it's a 15.5 point spread now. I think Vegas looked like they had Djokovic's injury already on the books when the spread originally came out. Eric, what does Boston College have to do to win this game?
I think they have to play a lot cleaner than they did against UMass to make it a comfortable win. I think they can play just about as ugly as they did against UMass and still beat Temple. Maybe it'll be a little bit closer than that. But if we're gonna see an outcome that we've kind of been patiently waiting for here after last week's game, I think Hafley's going to have to open up the playbook a little bit on both sides of the ball, a little less vanilla, and I actually think at least offensively he's going to. I think he realizes that he needs to give the offense some confidence going into the tougher part of the schedule. And I don't think he wants to see them put up 21 points in this game and have them doubt themselves going into the Mizzou game. So I think that Hafley is going to open up the offense, and I think we're finally going to get kind of a complete game from BC that maybe we didn't get the first 2 games of the season yet.
I think the injury to Djokovic does bring up something that Frank Signetti and Hafley have preached that they wanted to do this season, which is to have a balanced offense. They don't want to they don't want to do what Djokovic had to do last year, which was basically move the offense on his own. And it looks like, we need another example. We need a bigger sample size to see if this running game was fluky, like we saw it doing really well against UMass, or is it going to struggle like they did against Colgate? But I think if they balance this offense, if they can get that running game going, that'll open up play action, which I think against a team like Temple is going to leave a lot of open guys. I think that will really show what Grossell can do. I think it's the power of this offense, right? Like, you don't have to sit back there and, go 5 wide and have Grossell do that. But if you are balanced enough, and that'll open up the passing lane. So a guy like Grossell, who knows this offense, knows where those wide receivers are supposed to be, he can hit them all in stride, and he can hit those open receivers. And I think that's the big difference, because I've had a couple people on my site that I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, they're like, we already know what we have with Grossell. Put someone else out there. I'm like, what? Like, wow. You got a guy who knows your offense, a guy that knows the playbook, and you want to just say F it and say, let's throw a freshman out there? Hafley even said it himself this week. He's like, no, I'm not doing that.
What a terrible idea.
I know. So I think Grossel's this is a perfect opportunity for that. And I liked Pat Garwo. I had to say I was impressed with him. Did you get to see any of his runs on Saturday?
Yes, I did. And, I think there's some optimism there. Not the greatest competition, but I'll take any kind of positive signs from that right now. And just to comment on what the other posters were saying, I mean, hey, if the season goes a little sideways and Grossell can't live up to what he's performed in the past, then maybe I'd think about doing that. But after what Grossell's shown, I don't even understand that. He's clearly someone capable of getting wins for this team, even as the backup quarterback. So I got to give him at least a month to see what he has before I even think about going to one of the freshmen or something.
And to be fair, too, it's not even just one poster. There's a bunch of people that think this way.
That's odd. I didn't even know those people were out there. I don't know what kind of message board you're over there.
But you know what I want to say to them, too? Like, just as I just said, he knows the playbook. They like to point to his stats. Take 2019 and throw it away, because that was Steve Addazio's offense, and you know how he developed quarterbacks. Cignetti's a very different animal. And you saw, he went Grossell went from like 47% passing, I think, in 2019 to like 72% last year. So the offense is much more tailored to a guy like him, and a guy who is very experienced now. He's got the experience. He's been through it all. So we'll have to see what he does there. Now, the defense going to probably be without Marcus Valdez. I imagine they're not going to rush him back. From my perspective, I want to see them get to the quarterback, but if they're going with the mobile quarterback, I don't know if DeJuan Mathis gets in there. I want to see them doing what they did against Colgate, which is kind of like it's a rush, but to keep him in the pocket, because I don't want to see him running. I'd rather see him try to figure it out by throwing. What are you looking for the defense, Eric?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think they're going to rush Valdez back. I'd like to see them generate some pass rush this week, and even if it takes some blitzes from either the linebackers or the secondary too. But I feel like there's been a little bit of a lack of heat put on opposing quarterbacks this year that I saw more of last year, and I don't know if that's the vanilla kind of defense, and they haven't shown a lot so far, or what. But I'd like to see the team ratchet that up this weekend a bit.
So we're looking at predictions for this game, Eric. BC is 2-0. It's a 15.5 point spread. Excuse me. Do you have BC winning, and do you have them covering?
Yes and yes, and I even see some people out there, I guess, like Temple. I mean, it might be the average Joe that sees Jurkovec is out and BC as a backup quarterback, because I see some sites now has this game at 14 points. I actually like BC to crush Temple. I think Temple stinks. I think maybe they're like a tier up from UMass, which isn't much. I think they're probably one of like the worst 30, 40 teams in the country. I expect BC to roll them, even without Jurkovec. I think Grossell should be able to put up big numbers against this defense. This team is not good. They got slaughtered by Rutgers this year, and I know Rutgers is a little better, but BC's better than Rutgers. I'm really, last week against UMass, I was really expecting BC to kind of blow their doors off eventually, and like they kind of let them hang around. I'm hoping, and I have confidence that they got a wake up call a bit against UMass, and BC's ready to blow doors this week. I think you'll see BC win like 45-10 kind of game.
Yeah, I mean, I there were some things that were worrisome in the UMass game. Obviously, they played some pretty light defense at points, but I thought a lot of the issues that came up were fixable. And, they had drives that were just constant penalties. And, I'm starting to worry a little bit, because I think that was an issue last year too. It was more on the offensive side, but they were just letting drives go on and on with these stupid penalties. And then you had the muff punt, you had a blown coverage. things that they can fix. And I get the sense that Halfley he's going to be a guy that's going to fix that kind of stuff. So I have faith that they will. Now, for me, I think this offense, as you said, I have them around like 49 points, I think, too. I think they're going to score pretty easily against this team. We didn't see much of Zay Flowers last week. He had that one catch at the very end when he came back. But I expect them to try to get him more involved. You're starting to see Trey Barry get more involved. Once you start these guys get into the game, that's going to make the offense more and more lethal. And if they get the running game going again, I think they can score well. So I get BC winning this game 49-17. I got Temple with a few touchdowns there. Now it's going to set us up for next week when we talk about Mizzou. And now in a moment, Eric and I are going to go around the ACC. We're going to talk some betting lines from around the ACC and around the country. But before we do that, let's chat about betonline.ag. We're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back to start another football season. And as always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, betonline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 100% welcome bonus when you use promo code LOCKEDON. From football, boxing, basketball to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 21 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. I want to make sure that if you're listening to this podcast, you do one of two things today. If you are on Apple iTunes, make sure you give us a 5-star review and write a quick review. Say, AJ's great. I love Eric and AJ. 5 days of BC sports. Love talking about it. Do that. And if you are on YouTube, or if you haven't done YouTube yet, head over to youtube.com and find Locked On Boston College. Even if you don't use YouTube to subscribe to things, it's free. Find our channel and hit subscribe. That little piece right there will help other people find us faster. We have 100 people subscribed to our YouTube channel already, and I would love to get it to 200 by next week. So check all of that out. Now we're talking gambling. We're talking some bets here, and we're looking at betonline.ag. So big game on Friday this week. It's between UCF and Louisville, and UCF is only a 6.5 point favorite. I have not been impressed by Louisville at all. In the last 2 years, in fact. And I think UCF is a pretty good team. I think UCF's an easy bet here. Where are you at with that, Eric?
Yeah, I can't take Louisville until I kind of see them be right for a game. So I personally won't be taking this game, but I'd be looking to fade that team till they prove me otherwise.
All right. And then we move on to Saturday. You get the Battle of the Virginias. You got Virginia Tech and West Virginia in Morgantown. West Virginia is a 3-point favorite. Man, I want to hear what you have to say first, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
I won't put a lot of thought into this one, but I do not like betting against West Virginia when they're at home unless they're playing a really, really good team. That's just always, and BC fans remember this when West Virginia was with BC in the Big East. That was always such a tough place to play, like literal rat hole down there. So I'm always going to lean on West Virginia whenever they host someone.
Yeah, I this is a game. Virginia Tech started off the season with that big win against UNC, and I had to swallow a little crow about my bashing of Justin Fuente, but I still lean on my fact that I still think they're going to collapse at some point, and I think this will probably be the first one. It's a game in Morgantown, as you said. It's on the road. It's a hostile environment. I got West Virginia winning this game, and I'll take the 3 points on that one. Now, there's some other interesting out-of-conference games going on here as well. Michigan State and Miami. Miami, we talked about this last week, and you nailed it. Barely slid by Appalachia State. And they are a 6-point favorite against Michigan State. Are you going to fade on Miami again?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep betting against Miami this year. I'm 2-0 betting against them on this pod, and I'm gonna keep it rolling. I actually thought Michigan State wasn't going to be any good, and they came out and blew the doors off Northwestern in their first game. And man, if they can even duplicate 60% of what I saw that game, they're going to have no problem against Miami. So much like Louisville, I'm going to keep picking against Miami till they prove me otherwise. But again, this is like, I don't get it. It seems to me that these are two pretty even teams on paper, and Miami doesn't really have a home field advantage. So I have no idea why they're favored by that many points.
Then we move on.
Also, one more quick stat, courtesy of Chris Felica, but Miami 10 and 15 against the spread last 25 games as a favorite. So not exactly a good trend for them.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Now, a ACC matchup that is interesting. I would have picked it differently until they just stunk against Jacksonville State. It's Florida State and Wake Forest, with Wake Forest as a 5-point favorite. Now, I'm going to give you my perspective. I'm still not selling on Florida State yet. I know they had that terrible loss, and Mackenzie Milton did not look the same. But I'm not. I think they're going to at least cover this. Where are you at with this, Eric?
I'm going to go against you on this one. I saw a stat today since 2018, FSU is 2-12 on the road, which is like an eye-popping stat when you think of how dominant FSU was for so long in the ACC, and now they can't beat anyone. And yes, if you're asking one of those.
Oh, Eric, we lost you. You're muted.
Oh, my bad.
Yep.
I was just saying, Florida State, just an ugly stat. They're 2-12 on the road since 2018, which is a eye-popping stat. Like when you think about how dominant they used to be in the ACC, and now they're going 2-12 on road games. Of course, one of those wins over our old friend Steve Addazio, but I'm actually going to go Wake Forest here. I think they got a pretty veteran club, and FSU, I guess, I don't know. It's an interesting game for sure. Am I going to get FSU, the team that showed up last week in the first half of the Notre Dame game, or am I getting FSU when Mackenzie Milton came in the second half and they pretty much handled Notre Dame? But I'm gonna guess that I'm not going to get the great FSU here, so that's why I'm taking Wake.
All right, I'm going to get a quick hit on this one. Can Georgia Tech cover 28 points against Clemson?
No. Sims is out still, right?
Yep, he's not playing. All right, so then let's move on. This is a game I'm looking at the spread going, Northwestern is only a 2.5-point favorite against Duke. I think that seems like an easy money to win with Northwestern. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna toot my own horn for one second. So I've been keeping track of my picks here, and I'm 7-3 overall, 5-1 when I give you a top 3 pick for the week, and this is one of them for me. I'm going to take Northwestern over Duke. I thought Duke was going to be better, and they certainly didn't show it week 1, and last week they kind of they had a nice win over NCA&T, but it kind of took them a while to get going. So I'm going to take Northwestern. I don't know what's wrong with Duke right now.
And then the night game, which I think is going to be a challenge here. North Carolina is an 8-point favorite against Virginia. I'm going upset alert here. I think Virginia is not only going to cover, I think they could win this game. Brennan Armstrong looked really good last week, and I know it was against Illinois. I still think UNC has a lot of issues going on right now that might cause them some problems. I mean, their offensive line didn't look good at all against Virginia Tech. They're missing weapons after all their guys graduated. Sam Howell can only do so much. I think Brandon Armstrong has a more complete team around him. I get them winning this game. What do you have?
Yeah, I was wrong against Virginia. I think I even said last week on the pod, this was one of my 2 losses, but I said I don't understand why they're a 10-point favorite over Illinois. I can't picture them outscoring them in a game of that pace, and they did. They blew their doors off, and I was wrong about Virginia. I didn't think they were a team to be reckoned with this year, and they've shown the first 2 weeks they are. They've shown their offense can pump up the volume and score points. This is going to be so with BC and Northwestern over Duke. This is going to be my 3rd top 3 pick of the week. It's gonna be Virginia here because I think they're a lot better than I thought. And like you alluded to, I don't know if North Carolina has quite worked out all their kinks yet. They seem to be missing. They do have the great quarterback Howell, but they seem to be missing a lot of those playmakers that went so early in the NFL draft.
So, Eric, those are our picks around the league, ACC. I have one game that's a national game that I want your opinion on, and then I have one last thought for you, and I'll let you go. Alabama and Florida is the game of the week, and it's a 14.5-point spread for Alabama. I've watched some Florida. Anthony Richardson, I think that's his name, AR-15 they call him. I think he's the future quarterback at Florida, and he looks real good. Can they hold on against Alabama and keep it within 14.5 points?
Oh, that is such a tough game, and it's like they're begging you to take Florida with that 14.5, that extra half point. I think I'll roll Tide. I won't be playing this one, but I have a quick question for you. Is old friend Steve Addazio going to get off the snide, or is his team going to go 0-3 with a tough road game actually at Toledo this week?
No, they're going to lose. And we're on the same length. Eric and I had not talked about what we're going to talk about in this last segment. But my one thing I was going to ask you about was you posted, and I think you would consider it going viral, Addazio complaining after the last week's loss. Talk about what you heard and compare it to what Jeff Hafley has been saying this week about his injuries, because I think it shows you the difference in this program right now. Well,
a funny degenerate story here quickly. I was going to bed and the Colorado State game was on. I said, you know what? I think Daz is gonna win this game because he's been puffing his chest all week about the SEC, and so I took Colorado State like a moron. And hey, they were up 14-0 early, and I was like, all right, Daz coming through for me. Went to bed. Woke up, saw they had lost the game. I was like, wow, I got to see what Addazio said after the game. And, oh, yeah, he was not – you know what? He started off kind of calm, and then – listen, we said it. He has a little bit tougher media out there in Denver. Like, he doesn't have the guys from the Globe and the Herald lobbing softballs to him. Somebody asked him if he was nervous about losing the locker room after starting 0-2. And, yeah, I recorded the clip. It ended up – it kind of went viral there because Barstool's College Sports Pod picked up on it and shared my video, which was kind of cool. But yeah, he was pounding the table saying this is what's wrong with the world today. People talk about the negative stuff, and let's just talk about the positive and the explosive players out there. And like it was pure gold. Like, dude, I can't wait for them to start. Like, I'm hoping they start like 0-4, 0-5, because he's gonna lose his mind, and that'll be just the tip of the iceberg, his press conferences. And real quickly, you asked about the difference between him and Hafley. Hafley positive this week. We trust in Dennis, immediately coming out backing his guy. Daz has some injuries and some guys that are suspended because of targeting. And what does he do? Wow, we're in tough water, man. We got to play guys that don't usually play, and we're gonna.
Yeah, I'll read you the quote if you want.
Yeah,
we're going to be missing a couple of guys, and then we're banged up in the other couple of guys. Addazio said that could turn ugly. It is what it is. Hopefully, we get a couple guys back that will help bolster our defense in the second half. We're going to be very vulnerable in the first half.
I know. Just talk about the built-in excuses, and it was funny. Everyone was burying them for losing to Vandy because they suck. They're not good at all. I don't care if they're SEC. They're a horrible team. And he kept saying in the press conference, the weekly press conference, I caught a clip of it, and he kept saying, "Hey, don't forget now, that was an SEC team that came in here. I don't care what you think about them. That's SEC speed, SEC athletes. That's the real deal." So, of course, he was acting like Alabama had just come in there and beaten them, so I got a kick out of that.
Final thoughts on Steve Addazio. And I know some people are tired of him because he's not here, but some of this is hilarious, and I apologize. It's a media member who had to cover him. This is funny to see what's going on. The latest piece that came out today is that the American Athletic Conference is thinking of adding a handful of Mountain West teams, and one of those is Colorado State. So he might be joining the AAC soon. So,
all right,
he probably won't be there by the time they get there, but
I would think not, the way he's going.
So, Eric, let's wrap this up. Where can people find you on Twitter?
Yeah, check me out on all the social media sites on Hoffa BBQ.
Where do you have any like events coming up? I mean,
No, we've been pretty busy. People are still doing birthday parties and stuff, so we do a lot of private events and stuff
okay.
like that.
All right. I know you did like some things at like orchards and things like that. I've seen you.
Yeah.
All right, so check out Hoffa BBQ. You can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack_BC. You can also follow my site at Bulletin BC. Make sure to follow our site all throughout the weekend for the Temple game. I will give you my final thoughts and predictions. I didn't give you my prediction. I did, but I think Temple's going to get smoked, but that's okay. And check us out next week as we dive into the Boston College Temple game and start previewing SEC football. Mizzou's coming to Boston College. Check us out then. Thank you all. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.